Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This is Jobu Tapaki. And with me for this week's episode, we have.
I'm Justin.
I'm Cody because I couldn't think of a clever name from the movie that quickly.
I mean, my name kind of fits right in there.
I might be Alpha Justin. You don't know.
It's true.
I'm
Got to see some
Kong.
skills. This week, we are going to be a little bit all over the place as we discuss a movie that is currently in theaters, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Part of the reason we're going to be all over the place is because of the nature of the movie, which really lives up to its title. Just wanted to briefly read the official summary of the film, kind of a one-sentence line here. An aging Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting with the life she could have had. And it makes it sound so nice and straightforward. This is a movie that I was the first one out of our group to see. And I mean, I listened to a lot of movie and pop culture podcasts, and it seemed like a lot of people just kind of fell in love with this movie. And after I saw it, I kind of started singing its praises. And the big piece of advice I had for everyone was to try to know as little about the movie as possible going into it. So I'm just kind of curious, Cody and Justin, how much did you know? Did you see any trailers? Did you read anything about it before you saw it?
I did see, like, months before it came out, a couple of teaser trailers because I follow the studio that put it out, A24 on Facebook. And I've only seen a few other of their films, but based on the ones I have seen, Midsummer and Hereditary, I've kind of come to the conclusion that anything they put out is at least worth attention. But yeah, I saw just kind of a teaser trailer that looked bonkers. It had Michelle Yeoh front and center, and it's just like, okay, I don't really know what this is going to be about, but I'm on board. And I think I saw like an updated trailer in maybe a month before release. It still didn't really explain much more of what was going on, but it looked just entirely intriguing. So but aside from those, I didn't know anything about it at all, really.
Yes. Cody, were you surprised to learn that this was not a movie about Nicolas Cage?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so 2 weeks ago. Well, here's the funny thing for me. So originally we had two other people that might have hosted this episode. I was not originally one of the hosts for this episode. So I was not planning to even see the movie while it was out. And 2 weeks ago, I thought this was the unbearable weight of massive talent with Nicolas Cage. So I agreed to do this and then promptly looked into it and found out, in fact, Nicolas Cage is not in this movie. Or if he is playing a middle-aged Chinese woman. So I'm not sure, but he could pull it off if anybody could. So then once I found out what we were actually watching, essentially I was told by Joe to not watch anything regarding this movie, which I stuck to, believe it or not.
Wow,
the only thing I did look at was we had briefly checked to see if the kids could watch it, and I looked at a parental advisory guide, and the only thing I saw was that there was a fight involving two dildos, and I was like, well, that's probably not it then. So that was all I knew really going into it, honestly.
It didn't even tell you about butt plugs?
No, I don't. I just got to that part and was like, that's going to be a no. So
it's amazing.
Yep.
I mean, I actually did know more than you guys going into it just because of all the stuff I listened to. Fortunately, I mean, I didn't have much of the plot spoiled for me, but I did know that it was, I mean, I guess I didn't know much more than is in the IMDb description, just that it's like a multiverse hopping kind of thing.
I mean, what plot? It's about a lady who does her taxes.
That's true. I mean, it's the kind of movie where I feel like even if someone, I mean, Justin, you were kind of saying this before we started recording, like, even if you tried to describe like a lot of the things that happen in this movie, people would think you're crazy. Like it would just make no sense. So
yeah. Like even in context, it does make sense. But if we started talking about like individual scenes, oh man. Yeah.
I mean, that's go ahead.
Oh, it would be like we were just like, opening random books and pointing to a line and reading it. I mean, it would almost feel like that in terms of how incoherent it would probably come across.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the miracle of this movie, though, is like for everything that is going on and all the madness, it does make sense in the end.
Mhm.
I just watched it for a second time yesterday, and I mean that kind of struck me even more on the second viewing that everything really does come together. I mean, literally at the very end, but we can maybe get to that later.
Yeah.
I should probably
Um,
point out too, since this is a movie that is probably still going to be in theaters by the time this is airing, more so than normal, this is going to have some spoilers in it as well.
Heavy
So,
spoilers.
Yeah.
so
Nothing but spoilers. I mean, well, we can maybe do a quick non-spoiler section and just say, generally how we felt about the movie.
we could.
If you want, sure. Should we lead off with that then, and then
Sure.
dive into the? Okay.
I mean, I'll just say I love this movie. I will say that I think it may well be one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I mean, could be some recency bias in there, so we'll see how that opinion ages over time. But I mean, I walked out of the theater just kind of being blown away by it.
I will say I liked a lot about the movie.
Ooh, can't wait to get into
It's
that.
no Tales from the Earthsea, but it's
Oh boy.
But what is? And
that's a
I
throwback
came,
joke, audience. You got to listen to them all to get that one.
Gotta catch up.
whereas me, I came for the multiversal dimension hopping and crazy action scenes, and I stayed for the surprisingly poignant message that was underneath everything. I loved it.
It sure is poignant.
Also, how crazy is it that next weekend I'm going to another movie about the multiverse? Like, where are we living right now? This is crazy time.
The worst timeline.
I've been thinking about that actually. I'm not sure that the multiverse of madness can be much madder than this multiverse.
True.
I mean, let's dive into it then. I mean,
Yep. So spoilers from this point out.
yep, spoilers, hardcore spoilers from henceforth.
Spoilers.
Okay.
Raccoon.
When they actually worked him in, I mean, I was already kind of blown away by the film, but I'm like, okay, they're just running with this 100%, and I loved it.
Yes, I mean that's another thing that really struck me on my second viewing. The number of just like seemingly throwaway things that pay off in the end in this movie, is incredible. I mean, even I didn't really like register the first time I saw it in the theater. Near the very beginning, when they're going to the IRS building, there's like a sign spinner outside that they pass on the way there.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that you like it's totally just plays as like background. And later in the movie, like that comes into play as a thing. I mean, the raccoon thing is just like you think it's just a silly joke at first,
it's like, oh, they misremembered the name of Ratatouille, or they're doing it for copyright reasons or whatever. And then nope.
I was okay with Sign Spinner. I was not okay with Raccoon.
Oh,
racist.
Does that make me racist, or does that make you racist for the joke you just made? Let's move on.
Why are you not okay with Raccoon?
It goes into a larger problem I had with the movie.
All right.
You want me to get into that now or later, or whatever you want to do here?
I mean, was it the animatronics versus CGI, or
nope? It's the fact that he was in there to begin with.
Well, let's maybe start with what we liked about the movie, and then we can get into Cody's concerns.
What did we like about the movie? Well, the first thing I noticed, maybe not the first thing, but one of the first things I noticed is that they split it into 3 chapters, and I love when movies have chapters on the screen like that. Joe, I remember when we went to go see The Hateful Eight, and it has the chapters. I just love a movie that's divided into chapters when I watch it. I just think it's cool, especially this one, because once the first chapter was called Everything, were like, the other 2 are going to come later on. So although it felt really long, I was like, are you going to get 2 more of these in? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that now, because it kind of gets to the ending, but I mean, how did you feel about the way that the structure, the chapters ended up playing out?
From what I remember, I thought it was fine. I just think the first one felt like it was fairly long to me. The second one felt like maybe a third of the movie, and then the last one felt kind of abrupt, rushed. But I
think that sounds about right. I mean,
maybe by design.
Did you get the sense that anyone in your theater was faked out by the ending of the first one? Because the first one ends with like The first chapter ends with this like kind of down moment, and then they do like a fake credit roll as if the movie's ending for a minute.
Mhm.
Nobody
then it
got up in
cuts
our
to-
theater. I'll say that. So
No.
That's good.
I was like, that's not the end of it.
There was when we went to go see it. There was a brief pause, and I kind of got the feeling, like there was an atmosphere of should we start
Just
getting
kind of
up,
an
and then all of a
awkward
sudden,
moment
yeah,
of like
yep, and then it segued back in, and I think I could see maybe people getting faked out by it, but
We had the Marvel audience with us. I looked up at the end if there were any mid-credit or after-credit scenes, saw that there were none, finally got up to leave, and the rest of the theater was still sitting firm.
Nice.
I was like, okay.
yeah, I definitely had to check that too. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did throw something in there, but
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the structure, like that's another. I'm just going to keep saying things that struck me in my second viewing. I'm sorry.
sure, go for it.
But I don't think I mean, the first way through, I kind of thematically got the chapters, but I don't think it really registered with me until the second time.
Hmm.
Like the way that it plays into the everything, everywhere, all at once, like title. Because the first chapter is the longest, and that does kind of like, I mean, it lays out the basic plot,
Mhm.
basic
It lays out
themes,
everything.
but
Some
the
might say
second one,
everything.
well, I mean, but then the second chapter, everywhere, is where like the verse hopping just gets crazy, and like that's where we really start to see like different, threads being established in the different universes. It's where we get into raccoon and hot dog hands, and it really is like just jumping everywhere.
Mhm.
And then, the third chapter, all at once, is a couple minutes long. It really is just kind of the denouement.
Mhm.
But it does feel like that is, Evelyn kind of living with everything that she has experienced, and like learning to, kind of go forward with everything still kind of coursing through her.
Mhm.
But anyway, what else did you like, Cody?
What else did I like?
Yeah.
Oh, where do I start?
Oh boy.
I mean, I like that we finally got a sequel to Shang-Chi. That was nice. So finally had Michelle Yeoh as the badass fighter, elder lady, and Stephanie Hsu as the disinterested spoiled brat. So I'm glad we finally got. Oh, that was both movies. Never mind.
I mean, can we talk about the casting for a minute?
Sure.
Sure.
So I don't know how much research you guys have done into this, but it's funny you should mention the Shang-Chi connection, Cody.
Is it?
There are a couple of things with the casting that I feel like ended up being kind of like lucky for the audience. One of which is that the filmmakers, Daniels, apparently originally wanted Awkwafina for the role of Joy / Jobu Tupaki.
Ooh,
Now,
bullet dodged.
I like Awkwafina. I think I might have been like the only fan of her in Shang-Chi,
I like her.
but
Yeah.
I cannot imagine her having the range that Stephanie Hsu has. Like, I thought Stephanie Hsu was like incredible in this movie.
Yeah, she went from menacing to sweet to just completely frustrated to misunderstood. I mean, yeah, she had, like you said, just a ton of range in this.
Cody, what Cody?
I was going to say she had very little range, but now that you said all the different emotions, I will come so far as to say she had some range. You are right. There were more moments than I thought. So
Okay.
One of my notes here is the absolute swagger with which Stephanie Hsu walks off the elevator in an Elvis suit walking a pig.
that part was good.
That whole scene where that's kind of the first part where we like formally meet Jobu Tupaki.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, we have seen Joy before in the movie, and like, seen the kind of trouble that Evelyn and her are having.
Mhm.
And I mean, I feel like she feels like a different character in this moment. It's like a completely different mode. She is just like a total like swaggering badass,
Mhm.
smoking a cigarette, like just like, what's up? Like, I thought that reveal introduction was just like amazing. And I mean, that's the thing is
Yeah.
she just kind of switches modes everyone does. I mean, everyone is basically playing multiple characters in this
That's true.
movie.
That is true. Even the extras, the minors, right?
But I mean, I thought she
Maybe not the
especially was
pigs,
just
but
kind of
everybody
like amazing. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, trying to portray a character whose mind is in every reality at once, and trying to display that as one person on screen. Yeah, the shifts back and forth, on a dime were really well done.
yeah. I mean, even physically, like the way she portrayed her verse jumping, where she does that like head cocking thing, like I thought that was really effective.
Yeah.
I mean, I had actually seen her. I don't know if either of you guys has watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon.
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
It's good. It's a good show, but she actually has like a supporting role in the past couple seasons, and I honestly didn't think she was really that good at that series. Like she was okay, but I was shocked to see that she had, as much range as she does here. The other bit of casting that I feel like was kind of lucky for everyone. Apparently, the movie, when it was conceived, was originally intended to be a vehicle for Jackie Chan.
Holy God.
They originally envisioned it as Jackie Chan playing the husband, but him being a main character. So basically, it would have been Jackie Chan in the Michelle Yeoh role, and then presumably having a wife, in the supporting role. And I mean, I love Jackie Chan, don't get me wrong, but
that would have been way too on the nose.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
But I mean, not only would we have not gotten Michelle Yeoh in the lead, but we also would not have gotten Huy Quan as Waymond. And
yes,
he is fucking phenomenal in this movie. Like he is like literally the heart of this movie.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I mean, it's incredible. This is the first acting role he's had in over 20 years. He literally walked away from acting in the early 2000s because there just weren't any roles for Asian actors.
I mean, let's just call it 35 years. Can we just call it 35 years?
I
mean, seriously though, right? Like the stuff he's been in has been not big.
That's fair. I mean, well, and that's indicative of the problem though, is that they're just were not roles for Asian actors, and a lot of the ones that did exist were either very minor or stereotypical, and he just walked away.
Yep.
And he actually bringing Aquafina back into it. He actually cited Crazy Rich Asians, which I think came out in 2018, as being the movie that made him want to get back into acting. Like he said that he watched it and was like crying just seeing, the representation on screen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what, made him want to get back. Well, and I mean, I should say that in the meantime, he actually worked behind the camera. I think he went to film school and worked as like a, assistant director and did a lot of things behind the camera.
He did stunt choreography for a while also.
Yeah, I heard that too,
nice.
which is cool. But I think he is just phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah, going from an everyman to all of a sudden this badass kung fu master to like, kind of everything in between. I mean, I know we said that kind of about a couple of characters in this, but yeah, pretty much anyone who's focused on in this has a lot of different roles that they play, despite the fact they are technically only the characters that they are. It's hard to explain, but just multiverse.
Well, it's because there's it's the multiverse, right? So like every universe, they have a different complete character that they are in that universe. So therefore, when they're
so if anyone has made it this far and has not seen the movie, I mean, one of the main plot mechanics of the movie is that there's a thing they call verse jumping, where basically the characters can like communicate with versions of themselves from other universes and like draw upon their skills and even their memories and experiences. So I mean, that's these characters are really playing like just completely different versions of themselves. And I mean, Justin, you said we had said about multiple actors that they're playing different characters, and I think the fact that they are all doing that and all doing it well is like just amazing, and one of the most amazing parts of this movie.
It's an achievement. I mean, because sometimes nailing just one role seems like it's hard, to really do well. But here you've got, all the main cast portraying sometimes upwards of a dozen different versions of themselves and pulling it off. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that on screen.
What did you guys, I mean, I wanted to talk about, again, we're just kind of jumping all over the place. I mean, I think the first kind of like, holy shit moment for me in this movie was the fanny pack fight scene.
Yes.
Where it's like, this is amazing. Also, what the fuck am I watching? What did you guys think when that happened?
I mean, that was pretty cool. I mean, that's how that started too. Like, what did he eat? Chapstick or gum or something?
It's a chapstick.
He like brings out his chapstick and then breaks it off in his mouth, and suddenly like he's like got all these amazing fighting powers, and it's like, what the fuck did I just watch right there?
I think it's funny because like obviously something's off about the fact that he's eating the chapstick. So it's like, even though you don't know what he's doing, I think you still kind of start to put together like there might be a reason that he's doing something that weird.
Why was there the shot earlier in the movie of him like jumping parkour style around the laundromat? Was that like our first hint that he was going to be replaced? But like, why would like Alpha Wayman be like, I'm in this new universe, parkour off the laundromat?
It might have had something to do with acquiring other skills, because I mean the whole way that you connect with your other selves and all that is you do improbable things like eating chapstick or giving yourself paper cuts between each of your fingers, or I
mean that's fair, but that wasn't the Alpha Wayman that was there in the laundromat at the time. That was
it was
I think
when he was doing the parkour stuff. But I'm saying like you wouldn't have done the parkour to like activate a power. I'm saying
you don't know that.
He might have been
I
like
do
trying
know that
to
because regular world Wayman couldn't have activated a power, so I do know that actually.
Well, I think there was Alpha Wayman occupying regular world Wayman's body, and then maybe stockpiling a skill that he would need later to to accomplish something. That's my take on it.
I agree with Justin.
I agree also. That's your take on that. All right, very
good. Anyway, fanny pack fight scene is awesome.
Yes. Fanny pack fight scene was
well, actually, that's another thing. I mean, Huy Quan apparently did most of, if not all of his own stunts in this movie. Nice. And I saw an interview where he was talking about like filming that scene and the fact, I mean, another amazing thing about this movie is that it was pretty low budget. Like it was made for $25 million, which I mean, is $25 million. Like it sounds like a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But I mean, any of your like, Marvel or like big budget movies are like $200 million or more. Mm-hmm. I mean, I looked at budgets for some movies, at $25 million, it's basically in the same range as like a horror, like a not effects heavy horror movie. Huh. Like the recent Halloween movie that came out, I think was like $25 million, or like the Scream movie, where it's like, you don't really imagine a lot of like special effects in those movies. It's mostly just people, in costumes and stuff.
And of the 25 million for the movie, 5 million was just Jamie Lee Curtis's Activia yogurt budget.
That's true. But anyway,
$2 million for Raccoon.
But I mean, the reason I say that is he was talking about the fact that like during filming, they, most movies, especially bigger budget movies, they can basically do like an infinite number of takes until they get something right. Yeah, and he was saying that they literally had like 3 takes per shot. So he was talking about like doing the first part of the fanny pack fight scene. The first time he tried it, he just like totally messed it up, and he was like super nervous about it. Mm-hmm. But then he just like kind of miraculously like nailed the choreography perfectly on the second take. So he like didn't blow it. But I mean, it's just it's insane that they managed to do all of this like on such little money in such little time. Like it's just crazy.
Huh. So I found a quote on here too. I don't know if anybody read any of these things here I found, but this is Huy Quan said apparently they filmed the shot in the IRS office first in the cubicle scene, and then it says his quote was, "We finished that shot first. I was really nervous and insecure." I assume basically meaning he's back in Hollywood again or whatever. He says, "We kept shooting and shooting. There was one shot I did by myself after that. Jamie Lee Curtis watched it by the monitors. And after the shot, she came up to me and said, 'Key, that was fucking amazing.' She gave me a really long hug. That was all I needed. I walked on the set the next day with total confidence, and I finished the whole movie that way."
Awesome.
Oh, I mean, she was also pretty good in the movie.
Yeah.
When she had normal fingers, she was.
Hot dog hands. Justin, what's
Do-
something that you enjoyed about the movie?
Oh, geez. Well, I don't necessarily want to dig, too deep yet, but I I liked how it went from relatively normal to what the hell is going on, pretty much like flipping a switch. It was in the elevator scene where, uh, Huy Quan and Michelle Yeoh are just are on the way up to see Jamie Lee Curtis, and all of a sudden he just kind of like switches. He's not himself anymore, and he starts scrawling out this note and with instructions, and he hands her this little earpiece and says, no time to explain, just follow. When you get off the elevator, you can go left to where you're supposed to go, or you can go right and go into the janitor's closet. And he's just like rambling on all these seemingly nonsensical things, and then all of a sudden he's back to his old self, and it's just like, okay, I still have no idea where this is going, but that was handled in such just a matter of fact sort of way that it kind of set the tone for the rest of the movie.
Why did he put the umbrella in front of the camera in the elevator?
I guess in case Jobu Tupaki was watching or something.
And then they just went out and like kill 4 security guards, essentially. Like, don't let her know we're here. Hold on.
I mean, are you talking about the kill security guards with the fanny pack fight, Cody?
Yeah. Just when he busts, they do live. I'm just
but I mean, that was, I don't think that was planned. Like, because he tells Evelyn like, you'll know when it's time to fight, and she takes that as meaning like because Jamie Lee Curtis is coming up to him.
Oh yeah,
but it's like so she thinks that it's like alpha Jamie Lee Curtis, but it's not. So she punches her, and then she's like, "You assaulted me."
But yeah, I do also like how you never quite knew what to expect in terms of events that happened, but also tone. Like it can go from goofy and silly to just really dark and weird, and then back again, pretty much, at the drop of a hat. And I liked how unbalanced it made me feel for a lot of the runtime, because I never knew what was going to be around the next corner, and I could never really predict much of what was going to happen, and I liked that. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about the movie is that it does kind of switch between those tones, but it never feels like, I mean, everything still feels kind of a piece in a weird way. Like it's, I mean, ultimately this movie is a giant existential crisis.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the scenes, well, I mean, can we talk about the bagel?
We can talk about the bagel.
We can talk about the bagel.
So Stephanie Hsu's character, well, one of her characters is Jobu Tupaki's ostensibly the villain of the piece. And we learn later in the movie that this is actually something that didn't occur to me really until today, is that, there are a lot of memes I've seen over the past several months about like the gifted kid who kind of like burns out later in life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Jobu Tupaki was the alpha version of Joy, Evelyn's daughter, who was the gifted kid. Like she was really good at verse jumping, and Evelyn just kept pushing her and pushing her and pushing her. And then she finally kind of snapped. Like,
can we stop calling her Joy and call her Joy Wang, the best named character since a James Bond movie?
No, because that feels racist.
I didn't make the name.
Anyway, so Jobu Tupaki, because Alpha Evelyn pushes her to, do more verse jumping and kind of explore the different universes, she eventually gets to a point where she can see all of the universes like at all once. The time, everything everywhere all at once is kind of flowing through her. And so this is one of those things about this movie that sounds completely stupid and ridiculous if you were to try to explain it, but it works in the movie. Is that she says that she took everything and put it on a bagel.
Everything
in the universe, and puts it on a bagel, and it kind of like implodes in on itself and becomes like a dark bagel.
My God.
But when she's showing Evelyn the bagel, she says, when you really put everything on a bagel, it becomes this, the truth. And Evelyn asks, what is the truth? And she says, nothing matters. And then she says, it feels nice, doesn't it? If nothing
See?
matters,
Lincoln Park was right this whole time.
if nothing matters, then all the pain and guilt you feel from making nothing of your life goes away, sucked into a bagel. And she starts singing that last part.
Yeah.
Even as like tears are coming down her eyes because it's this like deep, metaphysical existential thing.
Yeah.
And again, they're talking about like what is literally a giant bagel that she put everything in universe on. It's just it's so all over the place, but it just like so works.
Yeah. And I think, metaphorically, the bagel is kind of the crux of the meaning behind the movie. Do we want to
Go for it.
Okay.
Just go in this one. What do you
Okay.
got?
Do it.
Gotcha. All right. So the bagel represents, since everything is on it, and we're dealing with a multiverse where, there's versions of you that have done everything. It's symbolic of pretty much what people expect of you. When you're young and full of potential and whatnot, it's a matter of, oh, you can be anything, you can be everything. You should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, etc., and so on. And if you try to do all of that everyone is wanting you to do, eventually it's just going to keep piling up and implode on itself. And if you keep trying to meet those expectations, even when you can't or you don't want to, it can destroy you. I think that's kind of what the message is here, because the bagel, anything that's close to it gets destroyed. It gets sucked in, it gets ripped apart, it's gone. And I think in lieu of just being yourself, if you try to do all of that, it destroys whatever identity you would have had for yourself. So I think that's kind of at the center of the message of this whole movie.
I think you're right. Actually, I have another quote I wrote down, which goes along with what you're saying, because I think that applies to Evelyn. Like that's why this version of Evelyn is kind of the one. Alpha Wayman says to her, I've seen thousands of Evelyns, but never an Evelyn like you. You have so many goals you never finished, so many dreams you didn't follow. You're living your worst life. You're capable of anything, but you're so bad at everything. And it's like it's kind of played for laughs, like everyone laughs at that line, but it goes along with what you're just saying, Justin. It's like this version of Evelyn had all these like hopes and dreams and all this stuff put on her, and she was never able to really fulfill any of it.
Yeah, she just runs a laundromat.
Yeah, and it's kind of like crushing her now. Like she's having this existential crisis and feeling like a failure, and it's that is kind of the basis of the movie.
Yeah, and the jumping ahead a little bit to not quite talking about the ending, but I think the ultimate message is that you don't need to be all of that. As long as you run a laundromat, or just do whatever it is that makes you content, that makes you happy, as long as, even if you're not that doctor or lawyer or singer or martial artist or whatever that society thought you should be or could be, as long as whatever you're doing makes you happy and it's not hurting anybody else, just accept that. And I think that's the true underlying message here, beyond all the flashiness and kung fu and multiverse jumping. And I think that's really poignant.
I agree.
I don't disagree with everything you guys just said. I think I wrote some notes down here. No, seriously, I wrote notes down here that are pretty much the same as what you just all said as well, which is like, it's a story of Evelyn rejecting the everything bagel is what I wrote in my notes over here. But I did see, like, maybe you're kind of hinting around the edges of this, but like the movie kind of brings up the idea of like, what does actually matter. Period, right? So it's this idea of like, even the choices that we do make, does it really ultimately matter? Like, if you think about it from the terms of like, our lifespan is so short, and the decisions we make are not going to have a long-reaching consequence anyway. In all probability here, the way shit's going down, humans may not even be around in so many years, at some point. So does the stuff that we do make a difference? Period. I don't know. Like, and that's a really, really dark way to look at the world. But like, the decisions you make tonight, is that really going to make a difference? I don't know. So I think it does raise like even bigger questions than that about life in general, and like how much of what we control has any meaning at all.
Yes, I mean, a couple of things you just said remind me of, again, one of my favorite sequences in the movie, which is the Rock universe.
Oh God.
What? Oh, let me guess. Cody hated that.
I did not like the Rock universe.
Oh, I thought it was like one of the most powerful moments in the movie, as portrayed by literally two rocks sitting on the edge of a cliff with text over the screen.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so dumb, but it works so well. It's amazing though, because they have this
debatable.
They have this conversation about the vastness of the universe and how it's impossible to not feel like a tiny piece of shit, like, in the backdrop of everything that's going on and how huge the universe is.
This is a universe where life didn't exist. Yet somehow we can jump to ourselves on that planet because life doesn't exist there. Okay, keep going.
The same atoms would still be there.
Yeah.
I mean, the equivalent atoms.
No. All right, so Cody,
no,
I'm gonna guess that this might be related to your issues with Rakakuni too.
Yes, I hated Rakakuni also.
I mean, the whole point of the movie is that like there are so many possible universes where like literally anything could happen, like anything is possible.
Yeah, I get that. Totally, it didn't work for me though.
So what the fuck is your problem?
You're saying it all worked for you guys. It didn't work for me. I hated all of the sight gags in this movie. If they were all gone, I would have loved it. I made a list of stuff I hated. That's like
most of the movie.
No, it's not. It's the hot dog fingers, the living as moving rocks, and then I mean, just in general, could have done without probably the butt plugs and dildos.
What?
Okay.
What?
How could we possibly have someone make a transference without having shoved the Employee of the Month award up their ass? I don't know.
Okay, have you ever read Douglas Adams?
Read? No, I've only watched Hitchhikers the movie.
Okay, do you remember the infinite improbability engine?
No.
That powered the ships?
No.
Okay, the idea behind it was that, in over an infinite span of time, even things that are ridiculously unlikely to happen will happen simply because of the nature of infinity. And that's kind of, a similar approach they're taking to some of the stuff here. If there's, essentially infinite universes, then you will have a universe with people with hot dog fingers. You will have a universe where life didn't come into existence. You will have a universe where there's like a animatronic raccoon teaching a guy how to cook.
To a dead rock, it doesn't work. Like that even breaks the laws of the movie. It's just
I will defend hot dog fingers.
Hot dog fingers, you could conceivably get me to believe somewhere, somehow, divergent paths. I don't see it, but maybe
they show it in the movie. They show the evolutionary moment where
where the
ape with hot dog hands beats one with normal hands, and that's how that happens. I mean,
brief tangent on the hot dog universe. There's a part where Jamie Lee Curtis's character is playing the piano with her feet, and she still has like the arm brace, except it's a leg brace because it's on her feet because they don't use their hands in the hot dog universe.
I didn't catch that. That's good.
I like that little attention to detail.
Well, I mean, again, to me, like one of the kind of miraculous things about this movie is that by the end of it, I cared about the Deirdre, I think was Jamie Lee Curtis's character's name.
Yeah.
The Deirdre and Evelyn in the hot dog hand universe, like I was kind of invested in their love story. I was happy when they worked things out. Like it's completely silly, but I mean, it worked for me. I mean, same thing with Rakakuni. Like, I mean, I was not like deeply emotionally invested, but it still worked for me as, part of the idea of kindness being.
You cried when she picked that chef up. Don't lie to us.
I didn't cry.
You did too.
I mean, I'm not saying I didn't cry at other things in this movie, but including fucking Huy Quan in the fucking being a suave motherfucker. I can't even put sentences together.
He was that good. I mean, it's hard to.
He was great. But
No,
I
he
mean,
was great though.
ultimately, I mean, I said at the beginning, like he is literally the heart of the movie. I mean, ultimately, the thing that kind of brings everything back around is his speech about kindness and
Mhm.
how, Evelyn thinks that he's weak, but in fact, his kindness is his way of kind of fighting in this world and
Yes,
Yeah,
in his way of surviving. And I thought that was just beautiful.
I thought the
it
movie
is.
was at a certain level to me, which I won't reveal yet. But when he did that speech and then the rest of the movie played out, I was like, thank God they did that. Like, that's good.
Mm.
And I did cry when he told her that in another life, I would have really liked just doing laundry and taxes with you.
Yeah.
Except it didn't go
And
so well in that life, but that's okay.
yeah.
But
But I mean, that
but
does hammer home the message again. It's like, as
yeah,
long as you're happy, as long as you're content, you don't necessarily have to do grand things. And it's just be kind and do your best is really kind of what it
yeah.
boils down to.
Well, I mean, that's the setup for that line is that in
Yeah.
the universe they're in, she is a famous actor or actress, I should say, or actor.
Mhm.
She's at a movie premiere and she sees Waymond, who, in the main universe, there was a moment where her father wanted her to, break up with Waymond, and she chose to leave her family and move with Waymond to America, and they start the laundromat. But in this alternate universe, she rejects Waymond and becomes a famous actress. So she's at this movie premiere and she sees him there, and he's wearing this suit, looking all suave.
Mhm.
And they have this moment, outside afterwards. They're talking, and she says, you should be in America and very poor, because she's like drawing, she can see main universe Evelyn's experiences, presumably, but she says it in a way that's so kind of like, the worst thing on earth would be to be living in America and being very poor.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what makes that moment so powerful when he says, I would have really liked just doing laundry and taxes with you, because that's what's important, is
Yeah.
having someone that you can, spend your life with and have that connection with.
I mean, it does also point out though the fact that like how he was showing his strength in the main timeline wasn't working because other people didn't react the way he would like them to have reacted, right? Like his version of strength in his own life didn't matter because the person he loved didn't reciprocate that until the end of the movie. Spoiler, but yeah, so
That's true. I mean, she didn't
Yeah.
see it though. And I mean, I guess it's hard to say if she would have, but so I mean, ultimately in the main timeline, Jamie Lee Curtis shows up at the laundromat and shit's not going well. And Wayman kind of patches things up. Like he gets them another chance with the IRS. And Evelyn asks what he did, and he says, I just talked to her.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's his superpower, is just being human and being like warm and kind.
did he show her the divorce paper then? That's what I took that as. Like he bought a week because he showed her they were going through a divorce at the time. And she was like, oh, God, I feel so bad for you. Here's an extra week.
I think so, because when she sits down with Evelyn
Oh, yeah.
outside, yeah, she brings it up, and yeah, so I think that was really what he had to resort to. But the fact that he was willing to do that to try and do what's best in the situation,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that counts for a lot.
He just didn't want to go to jail at that point. He didn't know they were getting back together. That came later. What else do we got here? Can we talk about other movies this made us think about?
Sure.
Did
Okay.
anybody else have any? Because I have a list here. So
Well,
I mean, oh, go ahead, Justin.
well, obviously the suddenly picking up skills, from an outside source, instantly and being good at them, that obviously draws to mind parallels to the Matrix, where
Yep.
the I know kung fu, kind of thing, or I can fly this helicopter now. So there's that, but I don't think it
double down by the
really-
fact that he was in like the vans that they were like being hunted down in the other world as well, and it's basically like the chambers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of wears its influences on its sleeves. Like,
it does. Yeah.
There's the part where she stops the bullets too towards the end and turns them all into the like googly eyes.
Oh yes.
But I
And it
mean,
comes
the way
around
she
the
stops the
googly eyes.
bullets is, obviously Matrix inspired.
Mhm.
Oddly, the first movie, well, I had two movies I thought of first when I saw this, and I'll give you the weirder one first. For some reason, I don't know. I think it's just the different possibilities for the universe made me think of Cabin in the Woods. I don't know why. It just did. Like the outcome could have been anything. But anyway.
Okay.
And then I already mentioned just the kind of overlapping characters here from Shang-Chi, but the one that this reminded me the most of, and I don't know if either of you saw this one or not, and I honestly, as stupid as this is going to sound, feel like my experience watching this movie was slightly ruined because I saw this other movie recently.
Was it Ratatouille?
No, it's Turning Red.
Oh,
Really?
I haven't seen that.
So
Same.
Turning Red is a movie about a Chinese family, which also stars James Hong, by the way, and is exactly the same story about a girl fighting with her mom, except it's told from the daughter's point of view, and this movie is told from the mom's point of view. But they both deal with like similar themes of like mother-daughter relationships, traditional Chinese family values versus American styled influence of how you live your life. In this one, they had the girl transform into the giant red panda, and here she transforms into Jobu Tabaki. And so it's kind of like the mom has to overcome. That's the same in both movies. Like the mom has to overcome her preconceived notions of like what that relationship is supposed to look like, and also overcome her own relationship with the generation above her, which is literally played by the same person in both movies. So that made it even weirder to me. With Mr. Gao in that movie and Gong Gong in this movie being above that. So I was like, this is the same story oddly told, but I mean, that's an oddly told story too, where like she transforms into this giant red panda, and this is like that movie's weird thing.
But how many dildos are in that movie?
2. Just the 2.
Oh.
So that one just oddly really struck the same to me. And then the last one I had here, and you could weigh in on this because I haven't fully fleshed this out yet, but do you remember when Data falls in the Goonies onto the spikes and he throws his pincher's apparel up and catches himself?
Yeah.
In that split second before he hits, do you think this could have been what he just envisioned in his mind?
Cody.
This is all a flash forward to him, like occurrence in Owl Creek Bridge style. And he, like all these things go through his head.
No, Cody.
He falls in the pit. He slips on the rocks. There's all these moments in the Goonies, and this could be.
So this is like an alternate Goonies universe where he didn't get the teeth to connect and he just fell to his death. And
no, he actually saves himself. This is just what goes through his mind as he's about to die. See?
Okay.
No, Cody. I should also mention a big influence, especially with what?
You can't prove that that's wrong. Go ahead.
I mean, I can't prove it. A big influence in the movie star timeline is Wong Kar-wai, who's a Hong Kong filmmaker. Specifically, his film "In the Mood for Love," which is very romantic. But the way that Huy Quan is dressed in that whole universe is very, very strongly influenced by that movie. And interestingly, when Huy Quan was going through his not acting phase for many years, he worked with Wong Kar-wai on at least one film.
Neat.
Anyway.
One more side note on Huy Quan here is he, in the same article, I was quoting the Jamie Lee Curtis thing from apparently, I knew they were still friends, but Jeff Cohen, who played Chunk in the Goonies, this is actually a legit thing, not a joke from me, but they're still good friends since the movie The Goonies. And Jeff Cohen is his actual entertainment lawyer still to this day. And so he says, I see Jeff a lot. And so says Jonathan Wang, who was the producer of the movie, absolutely loved that he actually had to talk to Chunk in order to book data for the movie.
That is amazing.
Right? So there you go.
That is amazing.
That is compliments of GQ, so we don't get sued. There we go.
Oh, I hit most of the main big points I was gonna set out to do, thematically and all that.
A couple tiny things left here for me. Well, one's big, I guess, but can I do a couple more trivia things here?
Sure. Go for it.
So James Wong, who plays Gong Gong, the grandpa in the movie.
I believe you mean James Hong.
Sorry. apparently on the last day of shooting, he brought a huge stack of 8x10s of his various film rolls and asked the cast who wanted a signed picture, and they all lined up and took a picture of him.
Dude, I would be in that line.
Right?
It's
Heck yeah.
amazing.
It says he
James
has
Hong
like
is a
600
legend.
rolls or something.
Yeah, James Hong is an absolute legend.
That's awesome.
So that part.
I mean, he was in Blade Runner. He was in Big
Oh.
Trouble in Little China.
No, that's right.
Ah, I love that
He
movie.
was, I mean, I'm just gonna name all the James Hong. He was in Kung Fu Panda.
Yep. This is not true. Or this is true. This is
Yep.
not. Okay, one more thing here. Topic maybe we didn't touch on necessarily in so many words. The visuals of the movie. We kind of maybe put a couple comments on, but that was a high point for me. I just really like I don't even know, is cinematography the right term for this, when it was just the scenes of her like just flashing through the various identities, like, but there were like 100 in like a 2-second span. Like it must have taken her forever to, just to take a picture or do like 1 second of film.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, especially for like the budget that they were working with, to have all that costuming and all the CG that they worked into the background and all of that. I mean, I would not have thought it was made for that low amount of money.
I have another bit of trivia related to the budget and CG.
Yeah.
So apparently their visual effects team consisted of 8 people.
Wow.
And again, to put that in context, your like Marvel movies or the big effects heavy movies typically have literally hundreds of people doing the visual effects.
Man.
Like it was just, I mean, it was people who were actually like knew the filmmakers and were like dedicated, like actual passion project kind of thing. But they literally had a team of 8 people do the visual effects.
That's incredible.
And I mean, like, I think the visual effects, like, I didn't feel like there was any moment where it was like super obvious, terrible CGI or anything. Like, I thought everything looked great.
Yeah, I'd agree. I thought so as well.
Yeah, I've seen bigger budget movies that looked far worse than this. So they worked some sort of magic here.
Fight scenes looked really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything seemed, I don't know how much was
that,
practical, but it was,
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know how much was, I mean, I think a lot of it was practical.
I'd have to guess for the budget.
But I mean, even if that's the case, just like the edits, like the scene where we first kind of meet Jobu Tapaki, where she comes off the elevator, like there's so many just like fast changes that happen in that scene.
Yeah.
Like costume changes and weapons turning into dildos, and
yep.
She's like fighting the one guard and like transforms into like a lucha libre costume and pile drives him, and there's just like so much crazy stuff that happens like so quickly. It's just, and it like looks just seamless.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we have to say about this film, gents? I'm about out of comment. Oh, I do have one more comment here, actually.
Oh, sure.
And this was from my wife, who watched the movie, because telling her, we were going to do this. I said, what? And we walked out of the theater, and because she watched with me, and I said, what was your thought on this? And now this is a comment that we as 3 guys probably can't comment on. So I just want to say that ahead of time here. But she said that the way Evelyn's mind works, like flashing through all the different things, is how the female brain works at any given time. And so she's like, when you see me like in a moment, like I'm thinking about literally the 1,000 things that came before this and are going to come after this because of this one decision. And you're just like, what's wrong? I was like, interesting.
Huh.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. No, I think I've covered pretty much all the major points I wanted to bring up. The only thing left would be if we started talking about individual scenes. But I mean, honestly, some of those are best experienced for the first time just going in blind. So
yeah, that's true. I think we've alluded to a number of scenes, but I don't know if we need to break things down too much.
No.
Other than to say, how slow did Jobu Tabaki walk up those steps at the end there? Oh my God, going to the big donut, like seriously.
It's a bagel, Cody.
Okay, listen, her mom solves like 12 problems while she's walking up 6 steps. Anyway, just saying. Anyway,
I love this movie.
Mhm.
Are we rating now?
Sure. Who's
Let's
going
do
first?
it. Cody, what do you got?
You want me to go first?
No, Justin, what do you got?
Okay.
I can.
Well, I, as I said, went into this not knowing much about it except for the fact that it looked just completely bonkers. But having actually sat down, watched it, and appreciated how all these weird, disparate parts all gradually weave together and fit and tell a coherent and very meaningful story, I was honestly blown away by this film. Um, I've not I don't necessarily know if I'd go so far as to say it's the best film I've ever seen, but it's really, really good. The acting, which we alluded to, is just top notch. The effects for the budget they had were surprisingly good. The storytelling, the juggling of all these different universes and timelines and all that, and yet having it all work is just incredibly impressive. It's a movie I would definitely watch again as soon as like the Blu-ray is available. I'm probably going to be buying a copy. Yeah, it was one of the best films I've seen in years. 9 out of 10.
Nice.
This guy's a tough sell, man. What do you got to get a 10 out of 10 with this guy?
Should I go next, since I think my
this-
answer is probably pretty obvious?
Sure.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I love the cast. It made me feel like the entire gamut of emotions, which I think it's really hard for a film to simultaneously be one of the funniest movies I've seen in a very long time and like the most moving movie I've seen in a very long time. It's hard to balance both of those. I mean, I've been thinking about this movie ever since the first time I saw it, and I'll probably continue thinking about it for a very long time. I'm definitely going to buy a copy when it comes out on video. I mean, if it's probably not my favorite movie I've ever seen, but I do think that it may actually be one of the best movies I've ever seen. I have to give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's a phenomenal movie.
Nice. And
All
then
right.
there was Cody.
Well,
Womp womp.
here's the deal. This movie had a lot to like. I really, really liked, I think, every fight scene in the movie that I can recall. Choreography is fantastic. Characters were very likable. Any movie that's going to bring Huy Quan and back into mainstream acting here, I was on board as soon as I saw he was actually in the movie. I was like, yeah, I'll do this for real. So that was cool. Story is interesting. I like the idea behind a lot of what they're attempting to do here with the multiverse. Not all of it worked for me. There was a scene or two where I still was not convinced they didn't mess up who was which version of who in the actual scene, but I'm probably wrong because I'm sure they went through and figured all that out. I do think a couple things here affected me the other way. Oddly, watching that movie Turning Red, like legitimately, I feel like has skewed me a little bit on this, which just seems like they're two different movies, but in so many ways reminded me of the same thing. The sight gags I mentioned did not work for me, like the beyond slapstick silly stuff I didn't like. I liked the weird stuff, the like licking and the swallowing and the like weird shit they did to make the jumps.
Tell
but
me more.
some of the weird stuff I could have just did without some of that. I don't know. It was good. I think I enjoyed it. So here's what I'm going to say to finish this up here. Shang-Chi and Katie are never going to believe this story the next time the four of them are in a bar, because when Jobu Tabaki tells them what happened to her, they'll be like, yeah, right. And then Wong will open another portal. But anyway, no.
Call back.
There we go. So here we go. Crunching the data. Ooh. I'll give you a short round number. 8.
God damn it, Cody.
8 out of 10 is my number.
8 out of 10. Nice. Okay.
So there you go. Better than you thought?
Expected.
Yeah.
Thought I was going to go lower than
solid.
That.
I did. Since you mentioned that you were glad to see Huy Quan returning.
Yeah.
I believe he and Michelle Yeoh are soon to be reunited in a Disney Plus series coming up called American Born Chinese.
I saw he was going to be in something at Disney Plus. I didn't know she was also in it.
Okay.
So that's exciting.
Awesome. A third Shang-Chi movie. I like that.
I know.
Very good.
I think that about does it for
All right.
for another episode.
Okay.
Seriously, go see it if you have a chance in theaters.
Yes, please
It's
go
phenomenal.
see this movie. It's amazing.
It's worth
Hashtag
seeing
justice
just
for
to see.
Rakakuni. Why do you hate Rakakuni?
I just said all of the over-the-top sight gags I didn't need. He was one of them. Why was he even in the film? Like, I just...
Because it was hilarious.
Because it was absurd in the wacky universe. I get it, but just... God,
Apparently you don't get it.
it's possible to get it and just not think it's good.
It's okay. Cody just hates
That's
Joy.
That's a thing.
And I don't mean the
No.
character.
I like Joy. What was her last name again?
Well, that about does it for another
Whoa.
episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing.
Look at the time. Look at the time.
All right.
All right, Joe's going to lead us.
Friends
Occasionally not
disagreeing. Scene.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Ciao.